did the Barkley Marathons start? And if you could give me a history, a glossed over history, but it's some sort of semblance of a timeline from the Barkley Marathons from when they started until what we know them as today.
Oh, well, they probably started in 1973 when I saw those trails on the map. And it wasn't, and the idea of hiking, of course, I wasn't running ultras at that time, but the idea of going on those trails was there. When me and Raw Dog did a backpacking trip of the
Who's
first
Raw Dog? Who's Raw Dog?
Carl Henn.
Okay.
My old buddy from high school. We did lots of stuff backpacking together. And we backpacked normally with other people who don't have something wired wrong in their brain, where that when they see contour lines that look like shading, it doesn't say, let's go there.
Right.
And so we made a loop that we did in 2 days. The first 7.5 miles took us 10 hours, and that was 10 hours of hard work. Of course, we're backpacking, and no one has been on these trails since the 1930s, so it was all map work. As we went along, trail running had become a thing. And when I saw trail running, to me, I thought, that's not trail running, that's path running. They're, just because it's not paved, it
doesn't make it as a trail.
When I think of a trail, I think you need to use a map. You need to recognize a deer trail in the woods.
Yeah.
And there's people who can't. Where you say,
it amazes me, but yeah, I do know that to be true.
Going, what? There's nothing there.
Yeah.
It's just leaves and rocks. And all the way around, we were saying, man, this would make a race. God almighty, this would make a race. Even if it wasn't for the backcountry trail aspect, it was. So we came out. Interestingly enough, that was the first time we found they had pulled in a trailer and turned it into a state park. So they had a little single wide trailer with 2 rangers in it. We just showed up to hike. We didn't know. Now we have to get permission to hike that trail. And we had to talk with them for a long time. They said, no, there's been several people attempt it. Nobody's finished it. We've had to go retrieve them out of the woods. Said, no, you won't have to retrieve us, and we'll finish the trail. And then the next morning we did the last part of it and came back to the trailer, and we said, told you we'd make it. And we did the whole thing. We got ourselves out, and I have friends who would really like to do that trail.
So that was the genesis of Barkley?
They thought that was insane. There's not a possibility in hell that there's people who want to run that trail. And there weren't many starting out, but nobody finished the first year.
When was the first year?
1986. It was a year later we did the first race. And it was so nice. It was 10 degrees down in the valley, which means it was probably not -10 up on the mountaintops. I had water bottles inside my outer coat. They froze solid. There was snow on the ground. I'm convinced me and Gary Buffington are the only ones that actually did a whole loop correctly. In the last stretch, we were coming up the backside of Bird Mountain, which is the repository of many souls. People leave their soul on the backside of Bird. You can hear the old lost souls rustling around in the leaves, checking to see if their owner has come back for them.
Okay, hold on. I got to stop you there. What makes you say this?
Because
it's a wild thing to just casually drop in a conversation.
Oh, yeah. The runners who have done it know it. They'll tell you the same thing. Runners leave their souls on the backside of Bird.
Just brutal running, or is that what you're getting at?
It's an unpleasant climb.
Okay.
So we're doing the switchbacks, and we would run a switchback and then throw ourselves face down in the snow until we could recover. And I'm thinking, the only reason I can go is because if I don't go, I'll die.
It's a good motivator.
And Buff, he says, Gary, I just got to tell you, if we get to one of these and you can't get back up, I'm going to have to leave you here to die. I said, yeah, I'm glad you said it first. But we did finish. We finished the loop under the time limit.
What was the time limit then?
Well, I don't know that we had the time limit out, but we did it right at just a few minutes over 13 hours. So we broke the 13:20 that's become the time limit.
Okay.
And, there's 13 runners. Nobody started a second loop and everybody went home. So you get a few more when they hear about that kind of experience. Ultra runners are not that bright. And when something's really catastrophic, they're like drawn to it like a magnet.
Yeah.
So we had more, and we worked out the things. You figured out that, not everybody knows how to find their way around in the woods. So we needed checkpoints. And Frozen Ed was the one that suggested the paperback books.
Okay.
And that worked out really good. And then we kind of built on all the different things over the years. You didn't want to say 100-mile race when people, were not able to make it past 20. So
did you add, when did you start adding loops to it? Because it sounds like
there was a 3-loop race to start with. The fun run was the original race. The original distance was 55. We did 2 shorter loops and a longer one.
Mm-hmm.
And the Frozen Ed finally finished the fun run. And then we said, there was 100. And we started out saying 6 loops because it would just double the 3 loops for the half. But watching how things worked and how people's mind worked and trying to set the bar where it's just right there at the discomfort level, I realized 5 loops was
the sweet spot.
The sweet spot.
Or the unsweet spot.
The number of loops, because the effect on you mentally of how many loops you've done, how many you have to do. And
if you can make a hump there, if you can make like that third lap, the hump to only have 2 more rather than it be split into 2 equal parts, I guess.
But with the fun run finish thrown in there.
Yeah, so it kind of gives them something to aim at, but it maybe gives them a little too much to aim at.
The 4th and 5th loop, you do hurt.
Yeah, I bet.
It's like what we talked about earlier, that you look at them going out and you realize in your mind, you think, in a normal race, they'd have the medical team talking to them to see if they want to let them go on or not. And we're saying, yeah, looks good. He's got a chance. This is the upside.
So and now I guess kind of ushered in by when you had the documentary, The Race That Eats Its Young, when that went live, and all of a sudden everybody, was that like a major? A lot of things changed
between then and then.
Yeah. So
after we got the first fun run finisher, then really what people thought about in their minds, the 100 was out there, but it was impossible. So that's when we got these shorter records that'll never be broken. The guy that did the 550 loop, he ran every step. He did a Jasmine Paris type finish for a whole loop. Now, he laid for hours in the pavement at the finish line in the rain, moaning because it had been so devastating. David Horton did a 23:49, a sub 24-hour fun run. But when you weren't thinking, now everyone is planning for the 100. So no one's going to come and use their spot to try to break the 550 loop or to try to break the 24-hour fun run. Those records will stand forever. And 1995 was when Mark Williams came from England. And he was a really good fell runner. And he didn't realize it was impossible, and he made a game plan to finish it, and he stayed out there, and it was touch and go, and he didn't finish with a lot of time to spare, but he made it.
And that was the first time it had been finished, the
And-
100-mile version.
And one of the first things anyone met him and said was, David Horton said, now you've ruined it for everybody. He said, I used to be able to run the race, and we had been moving up. They'd run 3 loops and go to the trailhead. And then the next year, someone would run 3 loops and go to the top of Bird Mountain.
Right.
And they were inching their way along.
Yeah, they were pushing the ball.
On the 4th loop. But then when he finished it, they have to have completely different game plans. And it became a different race that, it can be done. It took like 5 years for someone to do it again.
So where is like the woodshed or the watershed? Is it the wood? It's the watershed moment?
Watershed.
So where is the watershed moment where all of a sudden like Barkley Marathons becomes like the crown jewel in a lot of people's minds of the ultra running world? Like in popular culture.
Through or somewhere around the year 2000, we actually rejected publicity. If you'd hear from the media, someone would get wind of what was going on, and we'd say, no, we'd rather operate in the quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had a guy from within the park system that they put on a big move to throw us out. Because we do go through a natural area.
Sure.
Now, from the talk, from the very beginning, we've really been cognizant of that. And it was a conflict between
your impact on the environment through this race.
The impact that we had a very deep desire not to impact the natural area. And we had talked in 86 or 87 to the guy who was over the natural areas. He was a great guy, Roy Jensen, I'm pretty sure was his name. And he spent most of a day with me going over the maps of the park and showing me the sensitive areas so that all of our routes since then avoids the sensitive areas and also avoids going in a way that a lost runner might logically fall down into that part of the park.
Hey everybody, thank you for watching this bonus clip. For more of this kind of thing, make sure to like and subscribe. It really helps us out. If you want to see the episode where we got this clip from, you can see it right up there. And if you want to see more podcasts, playlist right there. Check them out. Super good. I like that. This really was a good episode.